Hey friends, welcome to TechHarvesting. In this video, I'm going to show you about TypeScript, what it is, what's the use of TypeScript, and why you should use TypeScript when compared to JavaScript. And also, we'll be creating a small Express application with TypeScript. Usually we use JavaScript with Express, but this time I'm going to show you how to use TypeScript using the built-in types of Express, and let's get started. So, what is TypeScript? TypeScript is known as a superset of JavaScript, which means it takes every feature in JavaScript and adds some features on top of JavaScript. So TypeScript itself is a programming language which was developed by Microsoft, and every JavaScript code that you write is valid TypeScript, but TypeScript code that you write is not valid JavaScript. It might seem a bit confusing, but you'll understand it over the time. So the thing is that with JavaScript, you don't have types. You have string, number, boolean, all those things, but you can't, like, if you have a string, you can turn it into a number by reassigning it, which is not great. And sometimes you go ahead and access properties of objects which are not even existing. So for example, there's an object called test, and instead that you have a property called property1, and by mistake you type in test.property2. That will give you a typo. That gives you an error, right? So that's because of just a small typo. So with the help of TypeScript, we don't have to look at any of those. We just create interfaces which are like types, or it can create types itself, which are different concepts of TypeScript, and you can just avoid a lot of errors. TypeScript says that we can avoid more than 50% of the errors that we get, and we can reduce the runtime errors. So when you're developing, you can get the errors and stop, reduce the errors a lot, and the production you won't have any errors. But if you're using JavaScript, for example, if somebody does some mistake, the user, then maybe there'll be an error. But in TypeScript, when you're developing, you can get all those things, and you can make the changes accordingly. The number of errors that you'll get will reduce a lot. So that is what TypeScript is. So this is a TypeScript website. If you go to the typescriptlang.org, you get to this website. If you want to learn more about TypeScript, you can go to the documentation, and if you know JavaScript already, which you should if you want to take this video, you can click in there. You can have some contrast, and you can find the differences between TypeScript and JavaScript. If you want to download, you can go to this page, but let's do it from scratch now. So first, I just want to show you with this small example on how TypeScript works. So if you look at this, you'll understand that this is just JavaScript, right? And you can see I have given a .ts file extension in here. That's because this is TypeScript. You can just open a folder and you can create a app.ts file, okay? And I'm not going to create that for now because I already have it in here. So this is just two variables, a greeting variable, which is a string, and an array of numbers, which are having the numbers 1 to 5. Okay, so first we're going to go ahead and type this greeting variable. So for giving types in TypeScript, you have built-in types, which means you can just give a colon and you can give the type. So string, oops, that's not what I need. So string, okay, that makes this greeting variable a string, and it's not very important that you should give a type in here, because since you already gave it in here as a string, it will default to string. Okay, so you can see if you hover over this, you'll see const greeting, the type is of string because this is having quotes around. If you just had nothing in there and if you give a semicolon, you'll get an error in there asking that it's any and constant variables must be having a value. You can have a let greeting, but it's always good to give a type, so you can give a colon and you can give a type for maybe string. Okay, so afterwards you can go ahead and reassign greeting as hello. Now with TypeScript, you cannot change the value of a string of a variable. For example, since this is a string in here, as we gave it as a string, you cannot make greeting as a number like this. You'll see that you get an error. Type number is not assignable to type string because this greeting variable is a string. So you can only change this to string, which is actually a very good feature of TypeScript, so you won't by mistake give another type for your variable. And about arrays, now arrays also having types in TypeScript. So if it was just an array, you would give like this if it's an empty array, but that's not what we'll do. This is an array of numbers, so for that we'll give number in here. So number is also a built-in type in TypeScript. So with this, you are creating an array of numbers. If this was having a string in it, for example 5 is a string, then you'll see if you hover over that, type string is not assignable to type number. That's because in this array we have told TypeScript that this is an array of numbers and it won't run properly. Now we need to compile our TypeScript. So TypeScript is going to be compiled directly onto JavaScript. That's how TypeScript works. So you can use JavaScript, and your browser, your Node.js environment, nothing will understand TypeScript code. So we'll need to install packages, and we need to like configure TypeScript, and we have to make it to compile onto plain JavaScript. So for doing that, you'll need to run the command npm install -g TypeScript, which is going to install the TypeScript compiler on your system. I've already got it installed. So now what I will need to do is to run the command tsc, which stands for TypeScript compiler, and I have to give the file, so app.ts. If you hit enter, it might take a few seconds to run this, but it's gonna go ahead, and also because I'm screen recording, my computer might become a bit slow, but it'll go ahead and spit out a file called app.js with the same file but a different extension. You can see it in here, right? So you can see this is old, using a bit of old JavaScript version, so that's why you don't have const or anything. Okay, wait a second. Okay, that's not a problem. That's because we are having the same name of the file, name of the variable in here, since we have app.js. That's not a problem. Okay, the error that we got in here, that's not a problem. So this is using an older version of JavaScript. That's why we have var, and because we gave const in here, right? So that's not a problem. We can change the version of all these things and like make much changes to our TypeScript compiler with the help of a tsconfig.json, which is a file which we use to manage the configuration of our TypeScript compiler. So I'm just going to delete this file for now, and once that's deleted, you know what, I'll delete all these, and let's have a look at a small example where we use Express, which is a web framework. You might be knowing Express. If you don't know, I have a video on creating a REST API with Express. And for now, let's create an API with Express and TypeScript, okay? This is not mainly an API. I'm not looking at the application. I'm just going to show you how TypeScript works, okay? So to start, let's create an npm package. So npm init-y. And it's going to create our package.json. You have the test script, which you don't want. We'll be adding more scripts now. But first, let's install the packages that we need, okay? So I'm just gonna clear the screen, I mean my terminal, and then first we need to add Express. So npm install Express, which is the core web framework. So we're using Express, so we'll just install Express first, and we have a couple of development dependencies, okay? So just to show that, if you go in here, we're going to install TypeScript onto our project, not globally, onto our project, okay, with npm install TypeScript, and we're making the development dependency because we don't need TypeScript in production. Then we are installing the Express types. So this gives us some built-in types for Express. I'll just show it to you how it works soon. And you can also install @types/node, which is the node types. If you want, you can do that also. We're also going to install tsnode. If I could do a quick search in here, which helps us to compile TypeScript and run without always like using the TypeScript compiler. So this is tsnode. You can see it has 7 million downloads. Like, it's very popular. Even TypeScript is also very popular. It has 16 million downloads, okay? And sometimes it has 20, all those things. So it's very popular. It's very helpful, okay? Always make sure you use TypeScript in your projects because JavaScript might cause you more errors. So once you return here, you can see that Express is installed. Now we're going to install our development dependencies, which are TypeScript, @types/node, @types/express, and ts-node. And to make developer dependencies, we can just do a -d. Hit enter. I used yarn here by mistake. Doesn't matter actually. You can use npm or yarn. I usually use yarn. That's why I just went ahead and typed in yarn. If you're using npm, just do npm install and add the -d at the end. Okay. So now it might take a few seconds. So I'll be back once that is done. You can also add nodemon as a development dependency. So you can do a yarn add -d nodemon. Okay, so that'll just help us to keeping restarting our server. So now we'll add a few scripts. Okay, so we can see that nodemon got added here. So for the scripts, the first one will be a build script. So build, which helps us to compile our TypeScript into JavaScript. So for this, we'll be using tsc, and we'll be running the command -p. This will just compile all our TypeScript files in here to JavaScript, and we have to create a tsconfig file. So for that, we can just do npx, you can do a tsc -- init, and if you have not yet installed the TypeScript compiler, you can just do npx tsc -- init. So if you're using npm more than version 5 or something, you have this npx command, so you can just run this command. Okay, since we already installed TypeScript compiler, we can just do that. I can see we have this tsconfig.json, which helps us to change some options of the compiler. Scroll down, you'll see that the target is ES5. That's the reason we got var and all those kind of old syntax. So I'm just going to make it ES6, so we get a bit more newer syntax and we get arrow functions and all. Because when I'm using Express, I mostly use arrow functions. Next, you can leave all these as it is, and you can change this root dir. I'm going to keep my TypeScript files in a src folder, so it becomes much simpler. And also our out dir, so out, if you can search for that, out dir. I'm just going to make it /build, so I'm just also going to uncomment that, so that will go ahead and keep our JavaScript files in a build folder. Okay, so that's what we are doing in here. I'm just going to close this out, and that's how we can compile a TypeScript with this build script. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and create our src folder where we are going to keep our project files. So I'm just going to go ahead, create a new folder called src, hit enter, and then in there I'm just going to create an app.ts file, and this is going to be our Express application. Okay, so for that I'm just going to do an import Express from Express. A great thing about using TypeScript is that it comes with import statements, so you don't have to use require when you're using Node or anything. Okay, that's a great feature. So now I'm just going to go ahead and create our application. So const app equals Express. We'll be adding our types soon, but for now I'm just going to create a basic application. So app.get / and request and response. So we can just do a rest.send hello. Okay, that's just our home route, and you can do an app.listen in the port 3000. So this is just a simple Express application, which is just gonna go ahead and run an Express server, and when we go to the home route, we can get this hello message. We can go ahead and onto our package.json, and we can add our start script and our dev script. Okay, so I'm just gonna copy that down, and our dev script is gonna use nodemon, and it's gonna run the command src/app.ts. So it's gonna go ahead and watch our server again and again. So if we make any changes, it's just gonna restart it. And for our start, so when we are deploying this to production, just we're not going to deploy it actually, but if you want to deploy, you're going to use node, and instead of src/app.ts, we'll be using build/app.js. okay, so that's what we'll be using for our production. Now we can go ahead and run our server since we have our start script. So we can do a start script and a dev script. Okay, so we can do a yarn dev on our terminal, hit enter, and you can see that it started tsnode. So we use tsnode, that's why we installed tsnode, and it's running our TypeScript file. So if I head back over to my browser, put up a new tab and go into localhost 3000, then you can see that I get hello. So that's because in my app.ts I'm sending hello in there. So that seems to be working. Now I'm just going to show you how you can add the types to your Express application. So you can import a few types from Express. So you can use application, and you can make this of the application type. Okay, so now this is an application, and you can see that our server is restarting again and again. That's because we have nodemon. Next, we can add request and response, and you can make this request and response. So now if you hover over this, you will see all the features and every TypeScript things are there. So if you hover over this, you'll see that this is an express.response, which means we have the send function in it and a lot of other functions also. So that was it for this video. I just wanted to show you how you can go ahead and add TypeScript to your project, and this is just a simple application. If you want to just go ahead and build it, you can just do a yarn build, and I'll just go ahead and compile this. I'm not going to do that now. It's very simple. You can just do a yarn start. After compiling, it will just go ahead and start the the JavaScript file. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.